BORTLE here, back from the LCS 6 event of the online format. That is right, guys. Luxury Championship Series number 6. And we have here returning duelist Christian Thomas. What's up, man? How are you?
What's up, guys? I'm fine, thank you, Bottle.
Nice. So it looks like you played Dinosaurs, and from what I've told, it's a blind second dinosaur deck.
Exactly, it's like a different take on dinosaurs. I played blind going second dinosaur.
So, how come you didn't win this event, man?
Yeah, unfortunately, I made a misplay in top four where I didn't chain miscellaneous to three tactical talents, and yeah, that's basically it. That's the reason why I lost.
Well, yeah, before we start the actual deck profile, we'd like to do some shoutouts, man.
Yeah, sure. So definitely shoutouts to Paulo, Arjun, Franco, Gabriel Netz, Hashim, Aaron McInnes, and Herman Hansen for testing and discussing theory for this event.
Well, without further ado, let's go ahead and check out this blind second dinosaur deck profile, man. Take it away.
Yeah, so I decided for blind second dinosaur because I think this meta is like mostly Dragon Link, obviously, and then a mirror match. And I think with Dragon Link, there's not really an edge in a mirror match. Like it's like any other combo mirror. You just have to win the dice roll and then pray you draw your hand traps going second. So I tried to search for other options that maybe have an edge against this matchup, and I found Dino to be really interesting because you can play a lot of the impactful hand traps, like I did, and also I think the engine itself is pretty good at breaking through like Seal and Savage, and you don't care as much about the Buster Lock as other decks. So yeah, let's go with the deck profile. So obviously you play the three Oviraptors, three Miscellaneous, double Archo, double Cerosaurus, and one Petit Pteranodon. It's basically the heart of the deck. Like those are your starters. You just want to see them. There's not much to explain. Then I played two Ultimate Conductor Tyranno, which is like the boss monster, which is pretty good. I considered only playing one because it's like not really good to hard draw, but I think it's always pretty good to have one in your deck for the pill. And then for the last two engine monsters, I played one Pankratops, which is also pretty good, especially here because it's searchable with Oviraptor. So like going second when you're playing into a board, you could just go Oviraptor search Pankratops, which already like outs the negates, and especially because Pankra is also big, you just kind of take over their guys. It's pretty good. And then I played one Giant Rex as the last dinosaur. I considered cutting it because it's like not really like it's also a brick. But the thing with Rex is that it's pretty good under Droll because under Droll, like the stack, like Droll hurts the stack a bit because you're playing like Pot, you're playing Fossidic, Oviraptor, so you definitely have some cards that search. But Giant Rex is just good because you can send it with Ovi under Droll, and then you can either bench it for Ultimate Conductor if you hard drew it, or you can bench it for the pill, and that way you still end on your UCT and the rank 4 if you have Ovi on board, so that's kind of nice. And then as for the hand traps, so like I said, I expected to be the meta very Dragon Link heavy, so I just played the best runs against that matchup, and I think draw was pretty good because like especially game one, no one will expect it, so they're not playing around it. And there's also situations where they just can't play around it. Like usually the way to play around it is to skip the search from the first striker dragon. But like when you start with the black metal dragon with chaos space with Seyfert, you just can't play around it at all. And then if you have draw, it's pretty good because they need a tuner to be able to extend through fiber. And if they just don't have a tuner, then draw usually ends their turn. So I found Droll to be really good, especially because the other two most popular decks I expect were the Mirror Match, where, like I said, Droll is also good. You have a lot of cards where Droll hits you. And obviously against Dogma Invoked, it's also pretty good because they're playing like Meltdown, Desires, Nadir, or Ecclesia. And then for the other hand traps, I played three Nibiru, which I also found to be good against Dragon Link. It's not as good as the other hand traps, but especially against people playing the Vylon Cube, I think it's pretty good because they're not making Herald before Fiber. So you can just wait with the Nibiru, wait for them to summon the Vylon Cube, and then you Nibiru them. And then it's pretty hard to extend because they already used the Fiber. And the thing is, of course, there will be people who are not playing the Vylon Cube, but even then I think Nibiru is fine. Because, like, worst case, they make Herald before, so they're obviously going to Herald the Nibiru when you use it. But then you clear the Herald, and Herald obviously is the best interruption to have against dinosaurs because it prevents like misc, it prevents babies from triggering because all of my stuff gets banished. And if you use Nibiru and they herald it, they would only end on Seal, Savage, and Buster Lock. And if you have like a good engine hand, you can definitely break that with that deck. And for the other two hand traps, I played Gamma, which of course is like generically really good. What I also like about Gamma is that it helps you to play through their interruptions as well, because usually the most fragile this deck is if the opponent has something for the Miss Grave effect, like when you use Misk in Graveyard and they chain like an Ash or an opponent's Gamma. That's pretty hard to play through. The only way to play through it pretty much is when you have an Archosaur in hand with a baby. And if you don't have that, Gamma's pretty good, because you would just like Gamma the Ash or Gamma the opponent's Gamma. So I think in that regard it's pretty good because it helps your own engine. But also obviously going second versus Dragonlink, like you do it on Romulus, removes the monster, so they need like two extenders, and it's also pretty good. And then for the last hand trap, which is like pretty uncommon, it's Gizmouka. So
Oh
for the
wow.
people not knowing the cards, yeah, I guess I would just explain it. So usually you would summon Gizmouka on the fiber because it effect says you can special summon him when the monster is special summoned from the main deck. So usually versus Dragonlink, they go fiber and, for example, bring the Vylon Cube, and then you special summon Uka. And then the second effect is when it's special summoned, you can target one of the monsters and then special summon a monster from your deck with the same attribute as the monster you targeted, and the monster has to have the same attack and death. So you usually bring out the water statue, which is pretty much the Vanity's Emptiness because it says the opponent can only special summon water monsters. So if you summon it versus Dragonlink, they pretty much have no out, like they just have to pass. And then on my turn, as you can see, I play the area, the water monster in the extra deck. You would just link both off and then go into area, and then you're not locked into water monsters anymore, and that then you can just play. So I think it was a really good tech, especially against people playing the Vylon Cube, like I said. Of course, if they're doing Herald before Fiber, you can't resolve the Gizmak. But like I said, then it's the same as with Nibiru in that scenario because they have to Herald negate it, obviously, and then you still remove the Herald with Gizmak. And the good thing about it is that even in other matchup, like for example, when you're playing the mirror match, obviously it's not that good there because they're not bringing water monsters, so you can't actually special summon the statue. But usually they would go like Misk to special summon the Archer. And the cool thing is that you can also special summon the Gizmak here and target your opponent's Archer, and since it's a light monster, you can special summon your own Archer and use its effect during the opponent's turn. So that's what I really liked about the card. That even in like other matchup where you don't special summon the statue, it still has its uses. Same with against Dogma Invoke, they would sometimes special summon the Ecclesia in the end phase with the Ash Dragon from the graveyard, or the graveyard effect, and then you can also special summon Gizmak, special summon the Archer from deck, and play like during your opponent's turn, which is pretty cool.
Did it ever like clash with your pot extravagance having that one copy of area?
It didn't, luckily. I mean, I know it's a bit risky, but you need to draw like Gizmak with pot together. That's the first thing, and then you also need to banish the area. And even in that scenario, which is also pretty unlikely to happen, you can still like crush the statue and then like play in main phase 2, but it's definitely worse. So yeah, for the spells, obviously I played 3 Extravagance, triple Fossil Dig, and triple Lost World. Obviously, all of them are really good. Lost World especially is also a big reason why I like going second more with this deck, because Lost World plus any dino is just a play. Because obviously you normal summon the Dinosaur, you give them a token, and then you attack. Use Lost World to protect, send the baby, and then special summon Ovi, and that all happens in damage steps, so it's pretty hard to stop that. That's like also one of the reasons why, yeah, like I said, I just preferred going second dino. First of all, you can play all the impactful hand traps, like Gizmouka is not really good going first. Obviously, you also can't use Gamma on to stop them if you're going first and you have monsters, and Lost World is also like a lot better going second. And then I played 2 Pill. I consider playing 1, because the thing is, it's like also not a card you don't really want to draw. But the problem is, if you hard draw 1 Pill, you can't do your combo because you can't resolve the Archosaur. And then for the last spell, I just played 1 Terraforming pretty much as my 4th Lost World. So yeah, that was the main deck.
So the since you're playing 41 cards, ultimately you did explain that you would have cut a pill, but it was going to interfere with your combo. Is there something else you might have cut to just make it the perfect 40?
I think I would cut the Giant Rex because, like I said, it's only really relevant if you get rolled, and then even if you get rolled, you can sometimes play without it as well. So in hindsight, I would have cut the Rex and just played 40 because this deck is not the most consistent one. So usually you just want to play 40 to see your starters. I played 1 Omega because it's obviously pretty good with Gamma. Like you just Gamma their hand trap, and then it's pretty much GG because like they're already neck run because they used like an Edge or an Gamma, and then you neck to them because you also resolve Omega. So pretty much every time you resolve Gamma in your turn, it's pretty much just game over. And then I played some rank 4s, obviously 2 Dolka. I think this is the best one. Because it's like generically really good. Like it's pretty much just 2 Solemn Strikes in one card, which is pretty good. Then I also played the other Evoza, which is Lagia, which also comes up sometimes. Usually, like post side, I would choose first against some decks because the issue post side is that the Dragon Link decks are gonna side Lancia versus you, and since they have Carrier, they can like equip the Lancia either to Carrier and then bounce it with Seal during your turn and then Lancia you, or they're gonna just Seal effect special summon Brotor, then Brotor target the Herald, and then search Lancia that way. And that's a big issue because Lancia is something you can't play through. So going first, I just decided to so post side I just decided to choose first against Dragon Link, and then the rank 4s are pretty good. Like usually you would just end on Ultimate Conductor Tyranno and Dolka, and then if you have like a hand trap backed up with this, there's not really a way they play through. And yeah, so played the one Lagia. Then I also played Drella, which is relevant against the Dino Mirror match. Like they can't use the babies in Grave, they can't use Miscellaneous. Then I played one Tornado because versus backrow decks, I also rather choose first. Because, like, for example, versus Guru or guys, it's actually pretty hard to play going second. Even though you have Miscellaneous, they just have like so many interruptions, and they're also playing like Floodgates. They have like Fiendus to negate the Miscellaneous engraved. That versus those decks, I would also just rather go first. And if you're going first with Tornado, it's like pretty good because for those decks, it's pretty hard to out it. And then I played some links, like I played Masquerina, which is cuttable, but just sometimes in the mid game, like if you can't kill them, it's pretty good to end on IP and have like Unicorn and Extra, which you can summon. Then of course I played the area for the Gizmak. I played both Nightmares, and I played Access Code Talker, which is cool because if you can't kill Dragon Link going second after you summon Gizmak, you just you can just use the area, summon their fiber back, and then you immediately can go into Access Code Talker and you clear the rest of the board if you couldn't kill everything. So, for example, like obviously with Ultimate Conductor Tyranny, you would usually clear all their monsters, but sometimes they have like the field spell left, which is pretty annoying. So you can just Access Code pop this, and it's also like just in general a huge beat stick and clears opponents' back rows. And then for the last 2 links, I played Link Reaver and Secure Gardener. Those are pretty much there for the combo with Archosaur. So you just link Archosaur into Link Reaver and then make Secure Gardener, and that way you always have a non-dino engraved to activate the pill. And Link Reaver is also pretty good in the mirror against Lost World, of course. You can just tribute your token. So there it also comes up. And then for the side deck, I played Triple Ash, Triple Lancia. Those are pretty much there for the mirror match specifically because the mirror match was the deck I expected to be the second most popular after Dragon Link. But also they are definitely good versus Dogma Invoked, for example. You can also side them both in against that matchup. And Ash has like other coverage versus Infernoble Knight, for example, as well, or versus like Eldritch. I just wanted to have some generic hand traps because my main deck, like I said, was pretty targeted for Dragon Link. So you can exchange the hand traps for those in the side deck. Then I played 3 spell trap removal. I played 2 Twins and 1 Duster. I considered Lightning Storm, but the reason why I went with Twin over it is that you can use Twin post turn 1 as well, and that's something I usually just like. Like Lightning Storm is only good if you're going second and draw it as your 6th card, but sometimes you just grind versus those back row decks, especially versus Sky. The games can drag on for a few turns, and then if you draw like Twin in the mid game, it's definitely better than Lightning Storm. And then the last 6 cards in my side deck were just traps for going first. Because like I said, against Dragon Link, I would choose first post side because of the Lancia issue. And then I just side in 3 Survival's End and 3 Rivalry. So I guess I should probably explain Survival's End because it's also not that popular. So the card says you destroy all normal monsters on the field and then you special summon level 4 or lower dinosaur monsters from your deck. So for example, you destroy 2 normal monsters, then you bring 2 dinos. And then the second effect is you can banish it from your grave, target 1 dino you control and 1 card your opponent controls, and you pop both. So what you're usually going to do is you wait for them to commit to the link cross, and then they special summon the 2 tokens, right? So those are normal monsters. Then you activate Survival's End, special summon 2 dinos, one of them being the Petit Pteranodon, and then you already remove the 2 tokens, which is already pretty good. But then after that, you can also use the Grave effect, pop the Petit Pteranodon, and pop another card from them, and then you can use the Petit Pteranodon in Graveyard and bring Pankratops, which is another pop. So the card essentially destroys 4 cards from them, which is pretty good. And I also considered some other traps, but the reason why I like this specifically is that it's also an engine card, because, like I said, the deck can sometimes break, but if you break like with Survival's End, it's obviously pretty good because it directly brings you into the game, because one of the monsters you're special summoning is the Oviraptor, and that's automatically engine for you. And then the last 3 trap cards were Rivalry, which might seem a bit weird as first versus Dragoning, because right, they're playing like dragons. But the thing what you're going to do with Rivalry is the same with Survival's End. You're just going to wait for the Link Cross and for the 2 tokens, and then they're summoning Marcher. So at that point, they have like 1 token, Marcher, and Link Cross on board. And if you flip Rivalry them, then they can't use any dragons, so they're pretty much locked. The other good thing about Rivalry is that it pretty much doesn't block you, because you can just play with your dinos. And then, like, Dragon Link usually doesn't side in spell trap removal against you, right? Because, like, you don't have any traps usually. Like, they're not expecting you to side into traps. And then you can just wait with the Rivalry on board until you have game, until you can special summon, like, two UCTs and, like, a few 1,800 beat sticks, and then you would just kill them. And also, I think Infernoble Knight, for example, is the other matchup where I would rather go first, because they're playing the Smoke Grenades, and they're also playing Herald. So it's kind of hard to break the board going second against them, because like if Smoke Grenade takes like a pot or an Oviraptor or a Mist in hand and I don't have another engine card, then it's pretty hard, especially because they have other interruptions as well. And obviously with Infernoble Knight, the Rivalry is also pretty good, because you can also just wait for the Link Cross spot. And yeah, that was pretty much the deck.
Any final thoughts, man?
Just thanks a lot to you for giving me the opportunity to do the deck profile on your channel. And yeah, I think it was a pretty good choice, and I'm glad I made top 4.
Oh, yes, no problem. And again, guys, this is top 4 blind second deck profile dinosaurs featuring Christian. Well, yeah, thank you again for being on the channel, man.
For sure.
And listeners, if you're not a part of BORTLE Nation, sub for BORTLE. It's that easy and it's free. Oh, God, yes. BORTLE out.